And the president, again, wants to see tax cuts, and he wants to see this massive revenue that we can gain from tariffs as well, which will create the external revenue service. So that's a definitive goal for sure.
Ellen tried to make a huge comeback with her new show, but Karoline snatched away the spark. Sometimes, underestimating your guest can cost you a lot, and no one can understand this better than Ellen. Why? What happened? We've talked about it all in this video. Ellen DeGeneres just jumped onto the stage for her 2025 TV special, Ellen's Comeback Live, to wild cheers. The studio lights were on full blast. At age 66, she was eager to get back to being America's sweetheart after she had been quiet for years because of problems in the past. Karoline Leavitt, the 27-year-old White House press secretary for Trump's second term, was her guest. She sat straight in a crisp red blazer, and her polite smile hid a quiet focus. The crowd was excited with a mix of Hollywood stars and people who live in DC. Ellen started with her usual silly jokes, but her first one about Karoline's age, "You're barely out of college running the White House," fell flat. People in the crowd laughed nervously, and Karoline's steady gaze made it clear that she wasn't there to play along. Ellen's special was supposed to be a victorious return, a chance to show how charming and funny she still is. It was a measured risk to invite Karoline, who is Trump's youngest press secretary and a fiery supporter of his policies. From the beginning, you could feel the strain. The room got stiff when Ellen made more age jokes by asking Karoline if she ever felt like a kid in a superhero costume running the White House. Karoline leaned in close, and her voice was calm but clear. "Experience is not the same as age," she said, talking about her early work in politics when she was 22 and her rough upbringing in New Hampshire. The crowd went silent when they felt the change. Ellen tried to laugh it off because it threw her off, but Karoline wasn't done. "I've dealt with messier press scandals than this show," she said, which made the crowd cheer. What happened next was a lesson in how to turn weakness into strength. Ellen made fun of Karoline's youth, her doubts, and her strength, but Karoline turned each one into a badge of pride. When Ellen made fun of her, "Don't you ever doubt yourself?" she replied with a story about how she dealt with trolls when she was 24 years old in a crowded New Hampshire town hall. "The guy who yelled, 'Go home, kid,' bought me coffee by the end," she said to loud cheers. Ellen's fake smile told it all. She didn't think much of her guest. The crowd was there for Ellen at first, but now they were paying close attention to Karoline. Karoline took charge as the conversation went on. She talked about Trump's policy wins like slashing gas prices, taking 300 executive actions in his first week, and bringing in $1 trillion in private investments. It was like she knew everything by heart. Even people who weren't sure about what was going on found themselves nodding along. Ellen tried to lighten the mood by making a joke about Karoline needing a nap after her work. Karoline replied, "Age is just a number. Isn't that your comeback slogan, Ellen?" The room erupted, and videos with the title, "Karoline for President," went viral on social media. When Karoline talked about her 3-year-old son, Nico, things became very emotional. As she talked about matching the chaos in the West Wing with bedtime stories and mac and cheese, her voice got softer. Everyone in the room calmed down, and Ellen said, "That's beautiful," for a moment. In comparison, it was very different from her previous digs, which now seemed silly. Ellen thought the mood was changing, so did her famous silly dance, flapping her arms in a stupid shuffle to try to fix it. Karoline, who was always on the ball, stood up and joked, "I danced through press briefings." The group laughed out loud as she shimmied and dodged made-up questions about immigration and tax cuts.
Fake news is not just wrong information in a story, but it's also acting in bad faith as a reporter and not giving who you're writing about and your sources ample time to respond. There's nothing worse than when I see a reporter in my inbox.
Karoline wasn't just there to make people laugh, though. Karoline got serious when Ellen asked about her Trump's controversial policies. She talked about how they would fight China's trade tactics and get American companies back up and running. Everyone was shocked by her cool, fact-based answers, even Ellen's liberal fans. "This is a lesson for me." "It was partly a joke," Ellen said, as the crowd cheered. The crowd was chanting Karoline's name by the end of the conversation. Ellen felt bad about herself and gave her a young and fierce mug as a joke. The mug went on to become a big hit. Backstage, the effects were felt right away. Ellen's staff was amazed by the show's record-breaking numbers, and Karoline texted her husband to ask him to get Nico some ice cream. Trump praised Ellen on Twitter, and memes of her shocked face became popular. News outlets called the interview a masterclass in clapping back. It only took one night for Karoline's press briefing dance to get 10 million views on TikTok. And her story about the heckler who became a coffee fan became a rallying cry for all losers.
Or for me? No? I have a question. No. Anybody? Okay. You're a reporter. You should find out. Go find another job whose interests you align with.
The moment became a permanent part of pop culture over the next few weeks. In PR class, clips were shown. Karoline's wit was broken down by late-night hosts, and moms bought young and fierce mugs for their children. A cult formed around Karoline's White House meetings, which teens watched to learn how to shut down haters. While Ellen was on live, she said never underestimate the kid, but the world had already moved on. Karoline's popularity kept growing, and there were reports that she might run for president in 2028. She ignored the rumors and kept working.
Hypothetical question. Again, I defer you to the Department of Justice for individuals that they are looking at or individual cases, but let's be clear about what this judge did. She obstructed federal law enforcement who were looking for an illegal alien in her courthouse.
The success of the interview depended on how well Karoline prepared. When people made fun of her age, she practiced responses that would make them feel better instead of saying sorry for being young. "I'm young?" Alexander Hamilton was the same guy, she told reporters later. Talking about Nico and her humble roots made her more likable, and her sense of humor put critics at ease. On the other hand, Ellen found out the hard way that jabs can go backward. Even though she was trying to be cute by teasing Karoline, it came off as rude around Karoline's calm demeanor.
Trump will mark Women's History Month by the exceptional women around our country.
The reason why we're having this conversation is because we are.
The effects on culture went beyond politics. That's when it turned into a story about being strong in the face of fear, and Karoline's coffee cup picture in the West Wing showed a change in generations and showed that grit and wit could be more important than experience. Ellen learned something from the show, even though it got a lot of viewers. She wanted to get her career back on track, but she gave the focus to someone who was changing what power meant. Many people turned into Karoline's fans and got to learn about her post this interview. What do you think about this interview? Tell us in the comment section below. If you enjoyed watching the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.